commercial platforms more usable. Call 866-224-5422. Toll free 866-224-5422. AMP2.tv, the first and only internet television network that's truly plugged in. 866-224-5422. That's AMP, the number 2.tv.
Can you tell if this burger contains bacteria that could cause kidney failure? Listen. Can't, can you? You can't see it either. There's only one way to tell if you've cooked meat and poultry to a bacteria-killing temperature. Use a food thermometer. It's not an extra step or a nice to have. Raw or undercooked meat may contain bacteria that can make you very sick, or worse. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year, and roughly 3,000 will die. But you can keep your family safer by using a food thermometer every time. Learn more about this and other important information. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. That's foodsafety.gov. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement.
Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know they're probably just a little bit nervous. You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
This is Talk 1470.
Talk 1470.
WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida attorney Joseph Bryant. Listen for the next hour as attorney Joseph Bryant informs you on different legal topics. Whether you are considering bankruptcy or dealing with mortgage or debt issues, Joe can help you. Knowledge is power. Don't fear the unknown. Get answers to your burning legal questions now. So call in and ask attorney Joseph Bryant to answer your questions. 888-565-1470. And now, here's attorney Joseph Bryant.
Well, thank you for calling the People's Advocate Hour. This is attorney Joseph Bryant, and I'm here today with Lawrence Malish, who should be calling in shortly. She's stuck in traffic because people don't know how to drive in South Florida. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. All right, well, listen, this is the People's Advocate Hour. We're going to talk a little bit today about some of the news laws that came in July the 1st. You know, Florida has 159 new laws. And I'm sure that if you're a sexual predator, that this affects you greatly, because now they're going to put more offenders into civil commitment. And they're going to bring in prosecutors, detectives, and victim advocates to decide whether or not you, after serving your term in jail that you've been assigned by a judge, that they may decide that you haven't spent enough time in lockup and that you need civil commitment because you're crazy. So that's one of the things. You know, Florida has, for violent predators, a 50-year minimum prison sentence for violent sexual offenders. I think it's the most you do in the whole country. So if you're a bad person, and you can look at 50 years in jail, I just think at 50 years you might as well just give them life. But hey, that's just my thought. Also, they're going to revamp the Department of Children and Families and try to make them more effective, adding 270 new child protective investigators involved, so that'll help with the caseload. They're going to try to help out foster children with paying for their driver's education so that they can get a license free of charge, and some car insurance so that they can better prepare themselves to get a job when they turn 18 and are removed from the system and get no more assistance. And, of course, they're going to increase the voucher program, giving corporate tax credits to companies that provide money for poor families to send their children to private school. So, if you want to help out a young lady who has young children, pre-elementary age, your company can get tax credits. Tax credits. Tax credits. That means that you get to write it off and do a good deed and send some kids to private school. I don't think they're thinking about you sending them to university school or American Heritage, but I still believe you get tax credits if you send them to a preschool and pay for the preschool, which is not cheap, sometimes $150 a week, which often makes it very difficult for an employee to make ends meet. You know, they're paying for half their salary or half their take-home goes to putting kids in school. Makes the job less appealing than going on the dole and receiving money from the government and staying home. So, anyways, very interesting laws. By the way, if you are illegally selling prescription drugs, you go to jail for longer. And if you cause an accident that injures somebody, once again. And if you didn't go buy your electronic cigarettes, kids, minors are no longer allowed to buy electronic cigarettes. Once again, it's very interesting stuff. I thought you might find it interesting. I did. You know, America is a great place to live. There's a phone call coming in? Oh, yeah, let's get the phone call in. Who's here? Hello?
Hey, Lauren Bayless on the line. Hello.
Oh, hey, Lauren. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Joe. How are you today?
So far, so good. I guess somebody put on the headset thing. Which one would I pull this one off? This one here? Well, it's coming through the headphones, and I can't hear her. Anyways, well, so tell me, Lauren, where have you been?
Well, I've been doing a little bit of traveling. I traveled to Buenos Aires, Argentina recently for pleasure and also for learning a little bit about Latin America and Latin American business and culture as well. Had a really good time.
So did they do the stop and frisk thing down there as they used to do in New York? Or you didn't get frisked at all?
I did not get frisked, no.
So you didn't have a good time?
Not in that way.
Not in that way. So did your fiancé miss you?
He did. He did miss me, but I kept him updated throughout the trip with pictures and whatnot, although it was very hard to get Wi-Fi, much harder than other trips I've taken before. So
yeah, you generally have to be either in a hotel or you kind of have to be inside of a hostel of some sort. Yeah, it's kind of a challenge. No, it's kind of glad that you're coming back from Argentina. It was wintertime down there, though, isn't it?
It was. It was really nice. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I got off the plane and it was 95 degrees, I was like, okay, can I go back now?
No, I understand that. So listen, since you're on the phone with us while you drive through the heavy traffic that's kept you away from us, we were just going over some new news. I was just talking about the new 150 new laws that came into effect on Tuesday, the July the 1st. Something in the tax range happened recently, July the 1st. It becomes effective. My understanding is that if you're an American resident, whether it be a green card or an American citizen, if you have accounts outside of the United States, you have to give the account information and the highest and the lowest balances of the account. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's actually been a program it's been a while. It's been around for a while. But the IRS and I guess I should also the Department of Justice, the DOJ, are really starting to go after taxpayers who are not fulfilling these requirements. And it's made headlines. There was recently a Coral Gables resident who was actually, he lost his jury trial, and he actually owes a lot of taxes now, unfortunately. So it's really important that people understand how these laws work. Because for years, accountants were not accurately reporting these accounts because it wasn't common practice. But now, as I said, the IRS is really starting to
clamp down.
Or not, yeah.
So you're driving. We can hear that. And are you past the big traffic at Sunrise?
There's still a bit of traffic, but it's starting to lighten up, luckily.
Yes, that's true. Lauren is a better driver than I am. My car flies. It doesn't really drive. Anyways, no. So we were talking about that other new laws, and I was just reading around the newspaper that's going around in the world, what's going on, and I understand that there's a guy that's been sentenced to death for blasphemy. I think what he said is something rude about Muhammad. That he found him to be mentally competent and responsible for writing abusive statements and uttering derogatory remarks against Islam. So if I want to say that Islam is a sucky religion and Muhammad is a false prophet, I may not be liked by a lot of Muslims in this state, but I can say it. And I don't have to worry about going to jail or being sentenced to death. This is because I live in America, home of the free and the brave. Because, even though legally I'm allowed to say those sort of things, there might be some Muslim imam right now writing up a fatwa to execute the People's Advocate for blasphemy. But here in America, I don't think the police are going to come in today and arrest me for blasphemy. I could say the same thing. I could pick on Jesus. Okay. I could say something bad about Jesus. I can't think of anything bad I want to say about him right now, but I could. And although there'd be a lot of people who wouldn't like me saying naughty things about Jesus, I'm allowed to. It's called freedom of speech. It's one of our Bill of Rights. I have the Bill of Rights on my wall, well, actually our wall, in the office. We finally put up the artwork while you were gone. And yep. And the Constitution's on the wall. And my favorite American writing, the Declaration of Independence. However, sometimes if you read the Declaration of Independence, you can get pretty mad with the people in charge up north. Anyways, well, I'm glad I don't live in Pakistan because I am not a believer in their Muslim religion. And I don't believe that they like us to talk about the Muslim religion. They don't like us to draw pictures of Muhammad. And I don't think they take too kindly if we were to say anything less than stellar things about Muhammad. And I understand that he was a very fashionable dresser, so, one shouldn't pick on him. And anyways, we're having a big problems with people coming across the border, and the People's Advocate support immigrants, especially those that come legally, and understand the desperation of the rest of the world wanting to be an American, because quite candidly, you got to be darn proud to be an American. And you got people that are taking trains, sitting on top of trains, doing whatever they can to get to our border, to almost almost to die of dehydration or other types of things like rattlesnakes, crossing the border, shaking hands when they meet the border guards, saying thank you very much, take me to Obama. And so the U.S. lawmakers didn't want to give him a whole bunch of $1 billion to play with. And I thought he might misappropriate it or might misuse it or use it for his own political needs. So their goal is to make it so that there would be money available for the things that are necessary. Right now, it's still going through the House, hasn't been approved by the Senate, so one doesn't know what's going to happen with that. But one would hope that they would do something nice. It looks like the UN wants to step into the situation and declare all these people that are coming in as refugees. And yeah, so that the American has to offer them asylum. My only question is it economic refugees, or is it they just want to be Americans refugees? In that case, there's a lot of other people out there that want to be refugees. But my understanding is you have to be running away from something, some threat to your life. I just don't see it. I don't see a war. I don't see the refugee status being appropriate for these young people coming in. But I definitely don't like the idea of them just being passed out into the street with no responsibilities. I can just picture how the young people could be preyed upon. And I would hate to see that was what's going on. And once they leave the control of the U.S. government, I don't see how they can be treated humanely. And they may be taken advantage of by people that shouldn't have control of the kids. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. We'll have to see what happens, but this bill is very interesting and unfortunate. Hopefully the good outcome will come. Although we always know with our government that isn't always the case, unfortunately.
Looks like the government's going to get $7 billion into the coffers from Citibank, because Citibank appears to have been heavily involved in the mortgage-backed securities that were sold prior to the 2008 crash. Of course, that means Citibank was helpful in bringing our economy down. We like Citibank. Maybe not. But whatever they did, they got involved with mortgage-backed securities. And it looks like they're going to give one of the largest cash penalties for their naughty behavior. All I know is all of my clients that are in foreclosure and all the clients that I had that went through foreclosure over the last few years aren't going to see a penny of that $7 billion. And more importantly, Citibank has never been one of the more reasonable people to try to negotiate a modification or a short sale. So obviously they don't really feel responsible for the disaster that they helped create here in our economic downturn. But I'm glad that they're giving $7 billion. I just think that the number should be a little bit closer to $700 billion. Then I might feel like they're beginning to pay a little bit more towards what they did. Actually, they should pay out all the money that they made on all those loans and all those mortgage-backed securities. And I'm sure that that would probably be much closer to, $750 billion. And that might help us to get that money. It would help pay down the deficit. Do you know what the deficit's at right now? I know you've been out of the country. Do you know how far away it is from $16 trillion?
Where are we now? I'm not sure I want to know.
I don't know, but where it stops, nobody knows, right?
Oh, my goodness.
I know, it's funny, but not that funny. It does feel like our government's going a little amok. What do you think? Amok, amok, amok? Remember that movie? Where the witches did the brew and they were like dum-dums?
I do.
I mean, your friend Lois Lerner, she's a friend of yours? You met her before? You guys are buddies?
I have never met Lois. No, but if I did, I might have a word or two to say to her.
I know. Listen, she's been claiming that it's un-American to find her in contempt.
It's very interesting. What do you think of her actions with the IRS? Do you think her actions were un-American?
Well, here's the first thing. If she had sat down and listened to an intelligent lawyer, because obviously somebody didn't tell her what she needed to do, and shut her mouth and just say, I plead the Fifth, then her Fifth Amendment against self-recrimination would hold. But she opened up that big trap of hers and said, I'm innocent and I didn't do anything wrong and I'm not going to discuss it any further. That's the problem. She made these affirmative statements before Congress, waiving her right to the Fifth Amendment. If she just shut her mouth and said, I plead the Fifth. So as far as I'm concerned, the fact that she's refusing to answer questions after opening her mouth she is in contempt. I personally think she's a contemptuous individual. I was reading in the newspaper that they found out that she advised all of her staff to use instant messaging and skip sending emails because the instant messages weren't recorded and there would be no documentation of what they discuss, which is contrary to the law that was set forth that they're required to monitor their and record their communications. So they circumvented the law. And then, of course, this lost email situation added on top of that. I'm really beginning to think that she's quite the contemptuous little wench who used her position to fulfill the agenda, the Democrat Party's agenda. It appears that she tried to have one of the senators audited, or possibly was a congressman. It appears that she had communication with the White House about these things. So I'm beginning to think that we might have a tricky dick situation involved here where, Richard Nixon used the IRS to beat down his opponents. Maybe we might have a real situation where Lois is that connection to Mr. Obama, or should I say President Obama. So it's a pretty interesting thing. By the way, do you know that they just agreed to they just did some legislation where they're going to actually bring a lawsuit against Obama for overreaching his position?
They are. Interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Yep. It's gone through the floor at this point in time. I think that's almost become a legislation where they're going to authorize the Congress to bring a lawsuit against Obama for overreaching. I think that given the chances of a wasted time going for an impeachment, I think that the lawsuit is an intelligent alternative. So it's something to keep in mind, and will be very interesting. Unfortunately, the way the system works, I doubt that it's going to actually get very far before he's out of office. I think he'll be finished by the time this actually gets to the Supremes. We'll soon find out. That's for sure, don't you think?
That is for sure. So, what do you think would happen if his presidency is over?
I don't question that the president has overstepped the bounds that are set forth for the executive branch, and he stepped into the position of what one would consider to be the legislative branch. And I'm sure that whatever is going to happen in the lawsuit, I think I've read several articles on it, and I kind of agree with the interpretation that when a law is law and there's a need for a change, you don't get the right to rewrite the law as you see fit without bringing it back to the legislature. One of his pompous experts has claimed, well, he's not changing the law, he's just slowing the implementation of the law, and that's within the purviews of his powers. And I don't agree with that fool. I believe that when it's law, and the president signed it into law. He has to enforce the law, and if he doesn't want to enforce the law, that's an interesting argument, but that's not his job. If he wants to change the law or abrogate the law or change the scheduling, I personally believe that he has to go back to Congress, who doesn't like him very much, but he still has to go back to Congress. Unfortunately, that's a terrible thing. And I was also looking up some information to do with Donald Sterling. Remember that guy that said all those racist, nasty remarks?
I do.
Now, I'm not going to say that I agree with his presentation, but I do agree with his right to make that presentation. And quite candidly, I'm kind of shocked what's going on in California. But I can only tell you here in Florida, we have a very strong statute, Florida Statute 934.03, which prohibits the interception and disclosure of wire, oral, or electronic communications except when permitted, after they've given notice and they've agreed to it. And this includes tape recordings of telephone conversations with all speakers' consent and the surreptitious recording of face-to-face conversations. It's a third-degree felony in the state of Florida for what that woman did. I don't know if it's a third-degree Florida in California, but it would appear to me that, not only was he harmed by her disclosure, but I think that she should find herself also under criminal charges. Only time will say. As it is right now, it doesn't fear that Donald Sterling is going to get any benefits of the law, because once again he said some naughty things and a lot of people don't like him for it. So my understanding though is that the law in Florida would make what she did a criminal act, and she could be charged with third-degree felony. So it's interesting what's going on out there. But the president wants to be a monarch. He wants to be king. And, President Obama, King Obama. I think King Obama does have a nice ring to it. I don't know.
It would certainly be interesting to go back to a monarchy.
Yeah, well, there you go. But, if we had you, we would have Princess Lauren, right?
Or Queen.
Or Queen. Well, Lauren, we're going to go take a quick break right now, and when we come back, we'll go into some more interesting stuff that's happening today, and we'll talk a little bit more about some legal issues. And once again, this is the People's Advocate Hour. Please give us a call at 888-565-1470. We're here to answer your questions and help you out. Have a wonderful day.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Bryan today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Bryan Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years. Attorney Joseph Bryan will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida Attorney Joseph Bryan. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Well, welcome back to the People's Advocate Hour. This is Attorney Joseph Bryan, and we're glad you came back. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call in at 888-565-1470. Or if you have a few comments about the things we talk about on the show, call in. We may talk to you. Sometimes it's good to have a second opinion. And I just had something very interesting happen. Shocked me. When I saw the Attorney General say that they were going to kind of back off and let the states control this new medical marijuana and legalized medical marijuana. They had promised under the Obama to basically seat the high-profile raids on providers of medical marijuana pot, which was legal in 16 states, including the District of Columbia. But during the very last past year, the Obama administration has quietly unleashed a multi-agency crackdown on medical cannabis. Cannabis being marijuana, in case you didn't know, Lauren.
Well, thank you for that.
Cannabis. Cannabis is a euphemism for marijuana. So when you have kids and they grow up and they go, but Mommy, I wasn't smoking pot. I was doing some cannabis. You go, oh, like there's a difference. Okay, you'll be an educated mommy. I know it's a ways away, but you never know. But basically, they've gone crazy. They are busting growers who operate in full compliance with state laws. They're telling people that are renting to legal pot dispensaries that they're going to seize their property if they dare continue to rent to them. And they've also threatened imprisonment of state employees responsible for the regulating of medical marijuana. With over 100 raids on pot dispensaries during the first 3 years, Obama is now on pace with Bush's record for clamping down on medical marijuana. Quite candidly, it imperils medical marijuana estimated to be giving to 730,000 people.
Wow.
Which is really not that many considering we have 300 million in this country.
That's true.
They're a minority. It's okay for the federal government to beat on the minority, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Is there like some sort of Bill of Right on that one?
Some constitutional issue with that.
I just don't know. Maybe they should be picked on because they're potheads.
Is that a protected class?
I don't know yet, but maybe it might become. Maybe we'll make it one.
Absolutely.
I know
if it's
that
related to some sort of disability. Absolutely, I
can
see that happening.
I can see it happens. I had several cases of medical marijuana as a defense. For some strange reason, this one young man had been busted like 4 times for possession of marijuana. Good news for him, though. He just had a liver transplant, this client, and he's recuperating. We're hoping he's going to pull through. Very nice guy.
I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, the reason why he did the medical marijuana is because the alternative for him was Oxycontins. Mm. And first of all, he didn't like the Oxycontins the way it made him feel.
Absolutely. There's a lot of really bad side effects.
Delusional.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Matter of fact, his next door neighbor who was on Oxycontins, maybe not for the right reasons, but she was on them, committed suicide.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that probably was brought on by the use of those drugs.
I've heard of a number of cases like that.
Yeah. So he didn't want to do the Oxycontin, so he did the medical marijuana. It wasn't like he was a criminal. He wasn't growing it. He wasn't like selling it in the streets to kiddies.
Right.
He was just buying it for his own purposes because he found that it really mitigated the pain and discomfort
Absolutely.
that he had. And unfortunately, he got busted 4 times with it. And it was quite unfortunate for him because, number one, he's disabled, dealing with a very bad disease involving the liver that was going to likely kill him. And they're like giving him a hard time. Well, we fought it in court for a while, and we were hoping that they were just going to dismiss. But in the end, we ended up having to, accept a withhold adjudication on all 4 charges. They decided they didn't really want to prosecute it, but they didn't want to let it go.
Right.
So, listen, the laws are not keeping up with the reality, and that's the nature of the beast. In my foreclosure practice, it hasn't kept up. Some bad laws were created by some aggressive attorneys who took the wrong cases to the districts, Court of Appeal, and got bad law made based upon bad cases. It's very difficult to get justice for some people who have been harmed by the banks. And the reality is that not all the properties are back up in price. They're up substantially, but there's still a lot of losses going around the state. It's a good time to do a short sale. You know what a short sale is, right?
I do, but I know you're the expert on the short sales.
Right. Well, I mean, you're very tall, so you don't know much about short.
That's right.
Yeah. But, basically what is happening is you're paying the bank less than is owed. If there's a first and second mortgage, the second mortgage will take a little bit of money, and the first will get the most of the money, but they're still going to get less than they're owed, and they're going to release the debt and satisfy the debt, and in many cases they're going to also waive their rights to pursue the deficiency.
Okay, so that sounds like it's usually a better option than
It
just
is.
letting the property go into foreclosure or not.
It is. There's still the problem of the deficiency. If it's your homestead, as of right now, it doesn't make a difference. Last year, the 2013 tax return made a big difference because you wouldn't have to pay the capital gains tax. The 1099 would be given to you for the forgiveness of debt. And if it was your homestead, you wouldn't have to pay the taxes on that. Right now, the law has expired.
That's right.
So unless they renew it, which they might do because it is election year, they might do it right before the elections, might agree to something up in the Congress. And they might extend it so that next year you can file the same thing and avoid paying taxes on it. Otherwise, you're paying income tax on their 1099. And
There's going to be a lot of very unhappy taxpayers when they realize that's the case, especially if they haven't kept up with the law and they don't realize.
Right. Now, question, do you feel as bad for somebody who's got a $4 million 1099 as much as a $40,000 1099?
I mean, I feel bad for anyone in those situations. I think the economy touched a lot of people, not just those in the middle class.
I think they should waive that whole 1099 forgiveness of debt thing. They should basically, as far as I'm concerned, take it away. Because I don't see how you got a benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, all you did was, yes, we screwed you, i.e. we the bank, screwed you by playing in the mortgage-backed securities market for about 8 years, causing the downfall of the American society as we know it economically, taking as much as $8 or $9 trillion out of the marketplace by what they played, and taking away people's retirement, because most people were using their homes as retirement funds.
That's right.
You know, like here in Florida, you know that your home is exempt from creditors, right? It's a homestead exemption. So that means they really can't come and take your house from you unless they got a mortgage on it.
Yeah.
And then, you basically, everybody that I knew that was in their 50s and 60s were buying bigger properties and bigger properties with the idea that when they get retirement, they'd sell the property and have all this money that's for retirement, $500,000, $300,000. That was going to be their little kitty. It's gone.
It's so upsetting. Think about all those folks with all that money invested. I mean, usually your home is your biggest asset. When you lose it,
you're destroyed.
With something that you can't control.
Now, there are certain people that I don't really feel bad for. And those are the people that went ahead and refinanced their home to pay off their credit card debt.
Right.
And then went ahead and refinanced their home again to pay off new credit card debt.
Yeah, it's a little hard to feel as sympathetic for people like that.
Of course, if they use their money to buy a nice big boat to go out and have fun in, I might not feel so bad, especially if they invited me. No, but, I don't know too many people that, and then I had some of my friends, they're so conservative. All they did to refinance was refinance it to make it a better interest rate. And then the market went crap, and they had $400,000 in their property of equity. Gone.
Yep.
Gone with the wind. Gone.
It's too bad.
And I don't think they can afford to send their daughter down to Argentina on vacation, unlike some people here. So what was your most favorite thing in Argentina?
The culture of the city, it was just amazing. The feel and the energy
The architecture.
of everyone. Yeah, the architecture. I mean, overall, it was just an amazing trip. The food was fantastic. We saw some great shows. We got to just hang out with the locals a lot, which was really cool.
Did they take pictures?
No.
Okay. They have blondes like you down there,
They
huh?
do, yeah. So we didn't stick out very much at all, actually.
Yeah, but took
we
you
had
to-
people asking us for directions sometimes.
That's
so.
cute.
Yeah.
And of course you could have given them in Spanish.
A little.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Derecha, izquierda.
Sí, sí.
Sí, senor. There you go. Say she'd come back with a few words in Spanish. Very impressive. Very impressive. Did you get a chance to do the tango?
We did, yeah.
A little salsa?
Well, no salsa, but a little tango. We got to go see a blind, well, we didn't see it. We went to a blind dinner, which was really cool.
You didn't see
dinner
it
in the
because you were
dark.
in the dark?
Exactly.
Eating dinner in the
yeah,
dark.
it was really fun.
But you've done that before with your boyfriend? Oh, that doesn't count, does it? Okay. Anyways, that's not the
Well,
same.
everyone else was on a date at the blind dinner, so
And
the
were
four of us
you,
girls felt a
four
little silly.
Little silly was no kissy, no huggy,
No, we're like,
huggy.
I think we felt like we were kind of crashing everyone's dates a bit.
There you go. You never know. You might have been invited to several of the tables.
Yeah,
You never know. You never know.
We didn't know it because we couldn't see.
There you go. Could you even see the meal?
No, it was all a surprise. It was really cool. And then we got to watch football, of course, which was very exciting. Being in Argentina
During the finals?
The finals was really fun.
But you weren't there for the demonstrations after the Germans took it.
No, I was back for that. But some of my friends are still there, and they said there were tears and
Crying. Yes. Argentinians can be very emotional. You know, did you hear the Colombian joke about how an Argentinian commits suicide?
How's that?
They jump off their ego. But you know how they die?
I have heard that one actually.
Yeah. Do you know how they die?
How do they die?
Starvation. It's a very long way down. I'm sorry for the Argentinians listening to the show. You can call in at 888-565-1470. If you don't like something we're saying, we don't care, but you can still call in. Well, you care, don't you? You're you're a caring person.
I felt very welcomed by the Argentinian people, and I know I have some friends who live in South Florida who are Argentinian.
Well, no, they're American though, right?
Well, of course.
And they're damn proud of it because if they live in Argentina, they have none of the rights that we have here in America.
That's right.
Stop
and they
and
also have a crashing economy.
A crashing economy, and I can stop and frisk anybody I want if I got a badge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I can do it if I don't have a badge, but I know that in Argentina you don't have any rights like you do here in America because this is the greatest country in the world. That's why we love it so much. Anyways, no, it's shocking to see the things that are going on. You've been gone just a week, and all these new things are transpiring.
I know, it seems like a lot has happened while I was gone.
Yep. They have this new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You heard about it?
I have.
It was legislated. There was a big political stink about who's going to run it and whatever. But ultimately speaking, there's a company called Frederick J. Hanna and Associates. And they did all sorts of naughty things over a 4-year period. They produced over 350 collection complaints against consumers, and many of whom may not have actually owed the debts or owe less than the amounts that were claimed, but they didn't care.
Oops.
So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going after them. Once again, when the federal government goes after them and they get fined, you get the money?
No.
No.
Of course not.
It goes into the coffers so they can misspend the money whichever way they want, whatever pork belly. What is pork belly?
I don't know. I was going to ask you what coffers are. I mean, I know what it is, but why is it called that?
No, it's called the coffers because you used to put it into the little coffer. I think that's what they used to have in churches or something like that. Like you donated money to the government to put it in the coffers. Or I think it's maybe the budget. Somebody can call in and give us the answer. What is the coffers?
Yeah.
888-565-1470.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, at least our quiet inquiring minds. I don't know. Maybe everybody else don't care. But it's going to be very interesting because I've actually seen Frederick J. Hanna and Associates on several of my bankruptcy filings.
Really?
Because they were creditors that were coming after it. But it looks like they're not happy with what happens. It's a mill. And it goes out there and harasses people to pay debts that they can't afford to pay. And, if people can't afford to pay things, they should probably come and give us a call at 954-320-6940. Or contact at Joe Lawyer at thepeoplesadvocate.com, or look at us up at thepeoplesadvocate.com. We can help you with your debt. Sometimes bankruptcy is an option. Sometimes there's better options for you depending on what the debt is and how much it is. Once again, some of their clients were Bank of America and Discover. So if you've been harassed, you know, once again, you have rights too. You know, listen, I'm calling you day, noon, and night, and I'm saying, you owe us money. When are you going to pay us money? Right? They call you up. They try to get you to confirm information. You have no intention of talking to these people. But they want to. They know it's you. So they're saying, Lauren, we know it's you. We know it's you. Come on, tell us. And they call you on your cell phone. They call you at the office.
I've heard of them even calling people's family members.
Oh, I know that they do. It's true. I've heard conversations about that. What do we do in those circumstances?
Well, that's definitely against the law to continuously harass those who owe.
You can nip the whole thing right off the bat by getting the person's name or their contact information, getting the name of the collection agency, and contact them back in the mail, return receipt certified, and by fax, if you can get a fax number from them, and notifying them that you dispute the debt, that you wish them to cease and desist all further telephonic communication or other, except for the sole purpose of, in writing, requesting confirmation of the debt. And you send them that letter, and they're not allowed to call you on the phone. They're not allowed to communicate with you except to verify the debt. And if they do, they violate the law, and at which point in time you're then empowered to bring suit against the collector in federal court. And one has nothing to do with the debt you owe them. They're not allowed to offset it and say, well, you owe me this much money. Okay, I broke the law, so we'll reduce the amount of money you owe me. But they have to pay attorney's fees and fines. And it can become several $1,000s depending on the court that you're doing business with.
So in your experience, once a debtor sends a letter to the debt collection agency, do they generally stop, or do they usually continue to pursue the debt?
It depends. I would say probably in 2/3 of the cases they stop.
Okay.
However, there's a large group of mills, just like that company that just got slapped, which I forget its name right now, Franklin J. I think was what? Let me just
Frederick J. Hanna.
Frederick J. Hanna, that's correct. And there's several out there that have no respect for the law, but the key is to document it. You know, and if they keep on calling you and they keep on communicating with you, and you keep on reminding them that they've been notified not to on such and such a date, and they disregard it, and you keep a running log. A log being what time they called, what kind of identification, what number they call from, what company did they call from, who was the caller, in reference to did they use a first name or did they have a specific clerk number or employee number that they're able to give out. And at that point in time, you do have the ability to go to a Fair Debt Collection Act attorney who can then bring a complaint and a demand letter to them and then file a lawsuit. And at which point, you know, the longer they want to keep it going, the larger his attorney's fees. And that's also a nice way to punish somebody, is make them pay your attorney's fees. And once again, it's a statutory attorney fee, so they get paid reasonable attorney's fees. And, you know, somebody who's fighting in federal court doesn't get paid the same as somebody who's fighting in small claims. You know, federal court attorneys are generally charging substantially more per hour. So anyways, so we were talking while you were in the car coming up here about Lois Lerner saying it's un-American to find me in contempt. Un-American.
It's an interesting choice of words, especially after everything that's happened with her.
Yeah. Do you think it's un-American for the IRS to go after people who are anti-sitting government?
I would say so.
Would you say that's un-American?
That's a pretty good description of un-American.
Would you think that if you're in a position of power within the federal government, say in the IRS, do you think it would be un-American to circumvent the law and have it so that none of your communications are recorded?
I would say so.
And do you think it's un-American to deliberately have several hard drives crash simultaneously?
It's quite a coincidence there.
You know, in the old days, you know what they used to do with people they had contempt that had contempt for the American way?
What did they do?
Well, they tar and feather them, and then put them on a wood rail and walk them out of town. You know, I mean, she's not very attractive to begin with, so, I mean, I don't know how the tar and feather would really affect her good looks. But I'm not suggesting that anybody go out there and tar and feather her. Not suggesting it. However, if I find out that somebody did, we'll discuss it here on the People's Advocate. Anyways, we're going to take a break just in a few moments. If you have any questions involving your debt, your taxes, consumer issues, contract issues, bankruptcy issues, give us a call at 888-565-1470. You can watch us on wwnnradio.com. And if you have some questions or you want to come in and talk to us privately because you're shy, you can come see us at the office. We're conveniently located east of I-95 on Hollywood Boulevard. And our phone number in the office is 954-320-6940. Once again, we're going on break.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Bryan today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Bryan Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Bryan will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida Attorney Joseph Bryan. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Sushi. Well, thank you for calling back to the People's Advocate Hour. This is Attorney Joseph Bryan. I'm sitting here with Lauren Smalis.
Hello, everyone.
Pretty soon she's not going to be that, but right now she's still Lauren.
That's right.
And if you want to give us
I'll always be Lauren.
That's so true. You know, I was getting you a little drink today, and they have those new Cokes that say, you know, have a drink, share a Diet Coke with, and they have a name.
Oh, my goodness.
And I found one with Joe, which is me, and I found one with Laura.
Oh.
Unfortunately, a couple of days ago, I saw one with Lauren, but I forgot to pick it up because I was going to bring it so I could share one with you, too.
That's too funny.
I know. And instead I'm sharing with family. I think of you as family.
Oh.
So you don't practice family law.
I do not. I have some great friends who practice family law, but I do not.
But you do taxation.
I do. Taxation, estate planning, asset protection.
These are important things.
They are. I think...
You know that if you transfer assets to avoid creditors, that's called a transfer to avoid creditors, and they can overturn such transfers, right?
That's right.
But if your transfers and your asset protection plan is part of a estate planning progress, is then it considered to be a transfer?
No, absolutely. I mean, as long as it's a legitimate estate planning endeavor, you absolutely can transfer your property and your assets in any way that you see fit.
Now, that doesn't stop somebody from claiming that transfer shouldn't happen, but at least you're safe from being brought on criminal charges for something.
That's right. Sometimes it can be reversed if
an activist judge.
Right, exactly. If they find that it wasn't completely on the up and up, but...
Okay, so what are some of the favorite tools that you think about when you're thinking about putting property into a protective structure?
I mean, obviously, trusts are really the hot item, and they've been that way for years. It's really the best way to transfer your assets into another entity, if you will, that you can protect your assets and keep them out of your estate, but still have some sort of control over them. It's really the best way to handle things. Even when I draft a will, there's always a trust involved.
Of course, a revocable trust doesn't have any of the protection that an irrevocable trust has.
That's right.
So it's very important to differentiate between the two. And of course, even corporations like LLCs and corporations, those are also great ways to separate ownership and protect them.
Absolutely.
And of course, we have land trusts here in Florida, which is an interesting character because you can both be the beneficiary and the trust settler and the trustee without violating the rules of trust and having it all merge back into one owner.
That's right.
Land trusts are a thing that come back from the old time of jolly old England in the 16th, 17th century. Of course, we don't write it in Old English. We do it in good old-fashioned, simple English American when we draft those. But those are great ways to hold real estate, aren't they, land trusts?
Absolutely.
Because then people don't really know who the beneficial interest is held by unless you decide to disclose that.
That's right.
So that's a wonderful tool for also keeping things at bay. And then, of course, international banking is a great thing.
It is, as long as you do report it as you are required.
Isn't that kind of interesting, though? Because if you file that report as required, isn't that discoverable?
It is.
So all of a sudden, you have all this stuff offshore, bank accounts offshore, even if you're like in a corporate format, but you have control of the account because you're some sort of involved with it, be a director or otherwise. So you disclose that bank account owned by that corporation to the IRS, where before you had to make that disclosure to the IRS. If it wasn't your bank account because it was owned by a corporation, there's a good chance that nobody would ever know that you had an offshore bank account and an offshore corporation and all that kind of good stuff. Is that
That's
correct?
right, yeah.
So
But of course the IRS is finding a lot of corporations that are especially closely held where the director or member does have control
Now,
over the account.
my understanding from somebody is that the fines can be as much as the money sitting in the account,
If not more.
and then there's penalties on top of that. So
That's
you
right.
lose all that money that you hid,
That's right.
and then they slap you with more money that you have to pay them.
Yeah. No,
So-
that's a rare case. That doesn't usually happen. You can usually negotiate or enter into some sort of agreement with the IRS or do a voluntary disclosure and reduce the penalties and fees. But sometimes that doesn't work out. You don't get accepted into the program, or you don't have an attorney who can negotiate with the IRS or knows how to at least. And
How many people do you think right now don't realize that they are in trouble?
a lot. But they're finding out every day. More and more people are getting letters from their banks saying, we are going to give you up to the government. And every day, more and more banks are getting added to the blacklist, if you will.
No, but I mean, my understanding though is that those banks that are notifying the U.S. government know that you opened the bank account with American identification.
That's right.
So if you're a Colombian and you opened up your bank account and you have, or businesses in Colombia, and you haven't been notifying the United States of these things in the past, there's a good question whether or not these banks are going to be notifying the federal government. That doesn't mean that you're not obliged to give that information, though.
Absolutely. You still are if you're a citizen or a resident of the U.S.
And when it comes to the IRS, since they have people like Lois Lerner working for it, what do you think the chances of them sooner or later coming to get you?
Very high, unfortunately. And it's not just those who were, willfully hiding money in a Swiss bank account. It can be someone, grandmother from Israel who's had money in a bank account for years, never even thought about it.
Never
just
thought
used
about
the
it.
account when they were on vacation or traveling back home to see
Never
family.
concerned themselves with
No.
it. Yep. And of course, most of these banks have contracts with or agreements or treaties with the United States where they're required to provide information on the accounts that they hold in different locations on American citizens.
Absolutely. And of course, they want to take the heat off of them. They want to
Of course not.
push it back
They don't
onto
want to get hit
the
with billions.
account holders.
No, they don't. Well, listen, this was an interesting conversation, and we're going to continue next week. We're going to get into some more details because I think this is an important conversation. This has been the People's Advocate Hour, and we have less than 1 minute. Do you want to sing for that last minute?
I don't think the great people of South Florida want to hear me sing.
I understand that you sing wonderfully in the shower. That's what I was told. I haven't heard it, but I've been told. Anyways, this is the People's Advocate Hour. We really appreciate you listening in. We couldn't have Imad Salem come in to see us because he's dealing with his son right now who's in the hospital. But hopefully we'll have him back next week to discuss the things we talked about. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. This is the People's Advocate. Give us a call at 954-320-6940. We're conveniently located off of I-95 and Hollywood Boulevard. Thank you very much for listening in.
You have been listening to the People's Advocate Hour with attorney Joseph Bryan. Join attorney Joseph Bryan next week on The People's Advocate, as you need to know your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure. You can also contact our office at 954-889-7443 for a free consultation. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.